So I was actually in the process of editing my Gravatar, and I decided that I should make a video. Why not? So here's basically what Gravatar is, in case you're not familiar. It is, as it says here, a globally recognized avatar. So that's pretty vague. Doesn't really tell you what it is. Basically, Gravatar has a collection of images, usually photos, that they associate with email addresses. So if you ever are somewhere and you are, say, posting a comment on like CNN.com or something like that, you can actually create an account on CNN.com using your email address, and they will pull in your Gravatar and show your image of your face or whatever image you upload. The advantages of this is really that you don't have to have your own system when you're creating an account to do things like uploading an image, saving it to a CDN, allowing for switching of the image, allowing for cropping, size constraints, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that because Gravatar essentially does that for you. It's a completely free service. Basically it supports, you know, all sorts of different interfaces, and it's a totally free, really pretty cool service. Now, when they have the sign-in here, it's actually a sign-in by WordPress.com. So I'm not sure if Gravatar was originally independent and WordPress bought them, or how exactly this happened. But that's essentially what Gravatar is. Also, I'm pretty sure Stack Overflow uses them. GitHub, I know, uses them. They were advertised down here, but you know, for comments and stuff like that. So, but really, this main video that I really wanted to do was actually around cleaning up your image so that you can use it with Gravatar. So, what I did is I just took a picture of myself. That's me, and let's see if I can shrink this back down into this. My 720p window that I'm capturing. Obviously, this is a selfie. You can see my arm is extended, but that won't necessarily matter because you're only going to really get a sort of smaller photo box. So you will have the ability to crop it when you upload it in Gravatar. So really what I'm worried about is kind of more or less getting it roughly correct. You don't want to cut too much off, but you also don't want to unnecessarily work on a section of the image that is not going to ever be used. So I would say that something like that of the button. So you can see too when you hover over here, and I think when you click, it'll show you the size down below right here. It shows you that it's a 940 tall, and so we want to make it about 940 wide. I want my head to be in the middle, so let's maybe do it the other way. So 850 wide, then we need to make it about 850 tall as well, because it is a totally square image. So 850 by 850 is right there. So now that I've used this crop tool, basically the crop tool is just this one right here, the little knife. I've selected a size. Now I can actually move this around. I'm not fixed to the actual positioning, so it's really more important that you get the size correct. You can also use these drag bars to drag it up and down. You know, as you can see, you don't have to always use the corner tool to do it. You can even use the sides or the corners. It's a great tool. I think that this is a pretty centered view of my face. I think that's good, so I'm going to go ahead and crop it there. You crop just by clicking in the middle of the photo. So now let's sort of take a look. Image is a tiny bit blurry. Obviously, I'm not going to fix that. You would have to take a better image to correct the blurriness. A little shine on my forehead because I am losing my hair. What do you know? But the main thing what you really want to do is this white background back here is not really actually white. And having a white background is really ideal. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the toolbox in here. You can click on this fuzzy select tool, and you can see that it does a decent job just with its normal settings here of selecting around things. I bumped the threshold, so maybe a threshold of 20. Let's bump the threshold up a little bit more, maybe to 40 perhaps. Really what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it fairly close around your hair and stuff like that. Now you can see that there's parts of my hair that aren't making the cut, like they're not being shown. So what you don't want to do here is we have a single layer. Sorry about that. You have a single layer. What you don't want to do is just hit delete. If you hit delete, then you're going to have these artifacts here. And yes, you end up, sorry, delete. Then you end up with a white background, but it looks really kind of fakey because it's just not accurate. You're really not getting something that's at all close to what would be in a natural photograph. So what we're going to instead do is go over here to colors, and then brightness and contrast is the tool. So we have the selection selected around the outside, and what we're going to do is we're going to bump up the brightness. As you can see, it's actually already doing. And then increase the contrast a little bit. So what we're trying to do is we're not trying to get it totally white. We don't want the shadows like right here to be totally gone. We just want there to be a little bit more contrast. So it makes contrast makes the whiters white and the darkers darker. Well, the blacks darker. So if you go the other way, it'll basically take it to a muddy color, and then if you go this way, it'll take it to stark white. So what you really want to do is just sort of eliminate as much as you can without making this terribly off right here. So you want to increase the brightness a little bit. Let's just go back to 0 here just to sort of see where we started. Zero. Okay. So if we bump the contrast up to 30 and bump that to 20, maybe go a little farther. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, I don't think this is working anymore. All right, let's go back. So this is where we were. So we're going to bump the contrast up to 30, and the brightness. Brightness, I think we're good at about, let's do that right there. So brightness at 10, contrast at 20. So what that's doing is it's really kind of eliminating some of the, it's really making the background a lot brighter. Now the reason I did it with the background is we're actually going to do the same thing, but I'm pressing Control A to select all of the image, and then we're going to go to brightness and contrast again. So I just moved it up to 20, and then maybe, you know, it starts to look a little fakey, you know, at a certain point where it's just super contrasty. And you don't want that, you know, this side of my nose being super shiny, the other side not. That looks pretty reasonable. It actually starts to make it look grainy and dull in the way it was. So the other thing is that it does get you washed out if you increase the brightness too much. So really the contrast, increasing the contrast, so I would probably go to maybe about right there. Maybe let's do like a 10 for the brightness, perhaps. See what that looks like. Maybe even a little too bright over there. Of course, that could really be more the contrast than the brightness. It's really kind of a little bit difficult to really hit it perfectly. So let's do that. So it's upping the contrast a little bit, upping the brightness just a little more. Yeah, I think that's good. So I upped it a little bit more. Part of the thing you need to recognize too on something like this is that you're going to be looking at it like about this size. So if you're not really zooming in to like look at like every single detail, like there's a little piece of nut right here, but that is just at this size not going to be noticed. And sometimes they're even smaller. Sometimes it's like this size. So it's just really sort of like, who are you? Kind of just a little bit of detail, you know, around your smiling face. So it's really not that important that it's like a perfect image, but I think it is kind of good that you have decent alignment and decent contrast. So I'm actually going to say that based on my requirements for this photo, that this is complete. So I just clicked again, and I still had that tool selected, so it was just going to open it up again. So I'm just going to save this as is. And what it's going to do when I hit save is it's actually going to prompt me to save a source file. So I'm going to actually save the source file in XCF format. And then the next thing I'm going to do is actually export it as. And then you're going to want to export it as a JPEG. And I'm going to say cropped. Probably should have named the source file that as well. As far as the quality, I'll just go with 95 for now. That's fine. They will redo the quality when you upload the avatar, and they will take it to whatever their specifications is, most likely 80 or 85 in the JPEG, just to you know, whatever their requirement is based on, you know, download speed and stuff like that. So that should sum it up. I'm decently happy with that. I could always have a better picture taken and try and get the background a little bit lighter before I start. Obviously, the better a photo you start with, the less tweaking you have to do with it afterwards, and really makes it a lot easier to do this. But I would say this is a definitely acceptable result considering.